for.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the channel. Hello. Joining me right now is Courtney Mazza. We'll probably have a couple others joining us shortly. Life gets in the way sometimes. Hopefully, Mary and Nessie will be joining us soon. But you're here because you love The Expanse, or you're at least curious to find out more about it. Before we get started in earnest, though, let's welcome back to the channel, Courtney. Hi, Courtney. It's been a while, but
hey,
good to see you.
How is everyone?
Courtney, tell everybody who you are, where to find you, and what it is you do. What do you do?
Well, I like to call myself support staff because I don't have a channel of my own. I mod for a few great channels, and I run the largest Game of Thrones group on Facebook in the fandom. And so I do a lot behind the scenes. For instance, one of the things that I just got to do was go to Dragon Con with a press pass with Azora Hype and Ashea of History of Westeros and cover The Expanse. So got to help do research for their interviews and go to all the panels and all that fun stuff.
Yeah, there's a really fantastic video on Kyle's channel, Azora Hype's channel, where he's interviewing Stephen Strait and Wes Chatham. And man, and you could tell they were having a great time with that interview because it's not questions they've answered 50, 100 times before.
Well, that's because we did our homework. I watched like 6 hours of interviews and took notes on what kind of questions they're frequently asked and what kind of questions they respond well to. And we had a big meeting and sat down and discussed ideas. And so
it paid off.
Prepared, and it did pay off.
Because that was a fantastic video. Maybe one of my mods can grab a link for that and drop it in the chat. I would appreciate it. Yeah, so The Expanse. There are some people I know for sure that are here watching today that have never watched The Expanse. So we are going to stay spoiler light. We're not going to spoil any big plot points for those folks, at least for the first, probably hour or so. Then we will be spoilers go, so that those.
Then I can get into the books where it all goes.
I mean, I don't know. I haven't read any of the books.
Okay,
We'll get into that. But
I don't want to ruin anything.
At least for the television show, what's been aired, we will be spoilerific after about the halfway mark. But we will let you know well ahead of time.
Right.
So, what is The Expanse? Well, it started off, oddly enough, as an attempt to make a MMO in space. These people were developing, what they hoped would be the successor to World of Warcraft. That's why you have there's the 3 factions, but we'll get into the 3 factions themselves later on. But it was originally that, and then from there they tried to move it into the tabletop game genre. So people were literally like Space D&D, The Expanse, which is where we get some of the early story for certain characters in season 1. Like there's a character in season 1 who dies very abruptly, and that's because the guy that played that character quit the game.
I did not know that.
Yeah. You know who I'm talking about?
Script Schlep. What's his name?
Yeah,
He's the medic.
Yes. Spoilers, but it happens pretty early on, so not too bad. But then it was a book series, and the first book came out in 2011. It's called Leviathan Wakes. And this entire series is written by James S.A. Corey, which is actually 2 people. It's the pen name for Daniel Abraham and Ty Frank, who are also heavily involved with the making of the show. So the show and the books follow very closely together.
Yeah, they make a huge point of that. I think it was Ty Stevens that was developing it as a video game, and
Ty Frank.
oh yeah, Ty Frank, and then Daniel Abraham came over and was playing the game with him as like a tabletop role play game, and noticed that he had a book like this thick,
right,
where he had all of these plots mapped out and all this world building and characters, and he said, you know, I know how to write novels. Let's turn this into a novel. The game thing didn't work out, so they decided to make it into a book, and they take turns writing chapters, and then they edit each other's chapters, and so it's a very collaborative effort, and yeah, it turned out to be something fabulous. I mean, the books are amazing.
And really the results, I would say, speak for themselves. Like, everybody knows, like, the majority of my fandom interaction over the last several years has been centered around Game of Thrones and A Song of Ice and Fire. And I really did truly love that story. You know, I really
Same.
do still truly love that story.
Same.
But after the show ended, you know, immediately there's this like, okay, what's the next thing?
Boyd.
And I do like television. I think we're, you know, the Emmys are tonight, and we're kind of in a golden age of television right now, a second golden age maybe. There's just so much good stuff to watch. But so I happened on The Expanse, and this only happened recently, like literally since Game of Thrones ended is when I started watching it. Mm-hmm. With an asterisk. I watched one episode last year. And
okay.
Wasn't even episode 1. We'll get into that story though. But so I've only been a fan for 3 or 4 months, but man, I have spent enough time. I've watched the whole thing twice and watched other parts of it many, many times. And I haven't read the books yet, but that might just be because I'm putting it off because I'm trying not to spoil myself for what's coming in the show. It is so good, y'all. It is. All right. Hyperbole is not going to serve me here. So how long have you been a fan then of The Expanse, Courtney?
I mean, probably since maybe like 3-4 years. I mean, I started watching it right away. I started reading it right away. And so actually my memory of the show, if you've rewatched it twice in the past 3 months, is not as fresh as yours, because I did go back and watch a few of the earlier episodes recently, but I have not watched season 3 since season 3 came out. Because like you said, I've been really entrenched in other things, right. And I, you know, A Song of Ice and Fire is huge for me. Game of Thrones, obviously, is kind of a huge part of my life. I was on a Wheel of Time reread, and I'm really looking forward to Amazon coming out with that series. So, but after Dragon Con, I started rereading the books, and I'm already like almost done with my reread, and there are quite a few. Right. But it just re-sparked my love for it, because I loved it when it came out. Like, I love science fiction, and they do it so well, and the science is so real, well, that I feel like I'm learning when I'm reading them.
Right. That makes sense to me. Like, I am a science-minded person, and if you're screwing up the physics, I'm going to know.
Yeah, and it makes for a more compelling story.
It does. You know, it's actually really good, really, really good writing, in that, like, the fact that they can't communicate at instant speed from the outer solar system to the inner solar system, it isn't a hindrance to the plot. It is a tool that they utilize to build tension.
Yes, it introduces so much tension, because space is a dangerous place. And if you're just like floating in a spaceship and all is hunky-dory, and you don't take into account all of the physics and the calculations of the path that the missile has to cover, and what the gravity that's going to affect it, like, it makes for such more such a more compelling story,
Totally.
having
Like,
all of those extra hazards in there.
Like, you don't have shields to protect you. And dodging is a thing that will get you killed if you turn too hard in your ship. You know, it's the way that's used to build tension is just fantastic. And I love every bit of it. Like, I think the more I think about it, other than the blue MacGuffin that we'll get to later. Oh, look, Nessie has made it.
Yay!
Hello, Nessie.
Hey!
Let's try this setup and see if that is better.
Hey, love.
Hey, major internet outlet out here. We had a power surge about an hour ago, knocked my router and my everything out. So I'm on mobile. I hope you can see me. I hope you can hear me.
Yep. So far, so good. Anyway,
Okay.
So where were we? Oh, yes, Nessie. Hi, Nessie, and welcome back. You've been on the channel a couple
Hi,
times.
Steven. Hi, Courtney.
Hi.
But for those that don't know, you tell them where you can be found on the Intergoogles.
Mostly you can find me flitting around on Twitter. I think I've probably talked to everybody in the chat at least once, twice, or a dozen times in the last week. And that's where you're going to find me, unless I'm on Steven Stark's channel because he likes to see my face or something. And,
You're all right.
you're there and everywhere.
Right on. So we're just heaping our praise on this series of the show and the book. So I talked a little bit about how I came into it. Courtney talked a little bit about how she came into it. How did you come into being a fan of The Expanse?
Well, Ashaya from History of Westeros had been talking it up all last year, and then of course she did that wonderful cosplay last year of a Belta Lauda.
She wore it this year too.
Yeah, this year too. So that really piqued my interest. And once Game of Thrones ended, I was looking for something good content, something to watch. I gave it a shot, and I was like, "Oh my God, why have I been wasting my time?
Mm-hmm.
This show is magnificent."
Yeah, I love it. So you said it, and somebody else, Leaf Underhill, was asking. Actually, that's the question. If I just happened on it and watched it, no, it was Ashaya that got me too. But mine actually has a really interesting story that goes with it. So last year, Con of Thrones was in Dallas, and I live in the Dallas suburbs. And Aziz and Ashaya got their hotels for like Thursday through Monday or something, but they flew in Wednesday, so they crashed at my house that night. But that was the night that an episode of season 3 was on, so I sat and watched it with them, and I didn't know what was going on or anything. But it was the first episode in season 3 where they have the ring, and there's that guy who's doing the slingshot racing and stuff.
Yes.
Yeah, which is such a weird place to start the show. But I was like, okay, it's good, and I see that, but I still backburnered it for 8 months. Then I started from the beginning, and I was like, why did I wait this long?
Why did I wait?
It's great, and it's great for so many different reasons. Not the least of which is the character building, the world building, the attention to detail, not only on the science, but I think there are academic papers to be written about how the various, Mars, take as for instance, without getting spoilery, Mars is a military powerhouse in the story. Well, Mars is the god of war. Eros and Venus are two love-associated gods, or a god and a goddess from Greek, Roman mythology, really. But there's a pair of lovers that have a story line that includes Eros and Venus, and it's really interesting the way they've chosen to layer that in.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Little sprinkles of mythology here and there. And like you say, Stephen, the science is so believable. That to me, that's one of the biggest things with sci-fi shows is they make the science not very believable.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, a lot of science fiction looks at science fact as a hurdle to be overcome. You mean you get your Heisenberg compensators so you can use your transporters. You have your warp core that does God knows what so you can go faster than the speed of light. Like I know my physics pretty well. I have an engineering background and I'm a science-minded person. And like, to me, there is only one leap of faith you have to take in the whole show to buy into everything else, everything that's not a blue MacGuffin.
Right.
And that is the Epstein drive. The Epstein drive, I think, can't really exist, but, you know.
I mean, they do solicit the advice of actual scientists. Like some of the things for instance, their PDC cannons, they researched how, so the length of the cannon would weigh down the ship and change the way it's handled.
Mm-hmm.
So they looked into this technique that people have posited where if you extend with like gas, if you extend the trajectory, so you like create a virtual extension onto the metal of the PDC cannon, and then it will give it that extra length that it needs to be direct across a large space. It's just one example. I think one of the authors of the books has a background in biology. One of the producers of the show or directors has a PhD in like physics or something like that. Like they really seriously put thought. And like, the actors were saying it's challenging sometimes because they will say things like, we have to reshoot that because you set your cup down and it's zero gravity, you know? Like these are things that they're really taking into consideration that make it so believable.
Right. No stray water bottles, no Starbucks cups
no
laying
Starbucks.
around.
No Starbucks, right? Yeah.
Great. They did bring forward that how very important coffee is, though. Oh, you cannot run a ship without coffee.
That's true. John St. Baptiste.
I can't run my life without coffee.
John St. Baptiste.
Working mom, like without coffee, impossible.
I just wanted you to know, John St. Baptiste, that we are not doing spoilers for the first part. We're trying to sell you on the show. We'll do spoilers later, and I will let you know well in advance.
And then we're going to spoil you.
And then it's going to be full spoilers.
It's on.
So for the non-spoiler intro to what is the story, though, like I have heard the show called Game of Thrones in space, and there are parallels to be made there, but it's not really a one-to-one.
No, but it is a wonderful political.
Yes.
Yes, the politics are just as important as a lot of the
as any of the action sequences,
or plot.
Yeah. And you know,
and it makes perfect sense. It takes human nature and extends it. So how would it work if we have these major dissenting powers and we are trying to, you know, imperialism on the grandest scale possible? It's I mean,
there's a lot to be said. Like, I don't know who the quote is, but somebody once said that when you're writing, applicable is better than analogous. Like, you want to write a story where the ideas apply to the world you live in, but you're not writing about, you know, that's why people use zombies to represent Nazi Germany. Did your power just go out, Nessie?
My power just went out again. Thank God for mobile.
Thank God for mobile phones. Yep. Well, I'll keep my fingers crossed for you that it comes back on.
It just popped back on. It's been doing this for the last hour and a half, and it's just playing havoc here. And the thing is, it's not the weather. Our weather is perfect outside, so it's just God only knows.
Yeah. For those of you that are not paying attention to it right now, you can watch this back through afterwards and pay attention to the chat. Bernie is posting her red carpet pics from the Emmys right now. She is my official red carpet reporter.
She is there, our eyes on the ground.
Right.
I think the Expanse was up for, I think they were up for Saturn Awards this year.
I think you're right. So one of the things that really caught me about the show before I ever watched it, though, was hashtag Save the Expanse. And if you don't know the story about that, it is one of the most compelling sort of like fan-inspired stories I've ever heard. And you guys all know how much I love my fan community. Well, I may not be like part of the Screaming Firehawks quite yet. I'm too new, but man, how often is it that a show actually gets saved from cancellation? Extremely rare.
Just from the grassroots, from the fans who just love the show. You know, I can't think of any other example in my lifetime.
It happened to Star Trek in 1964 or whatever. Fans wrote in hundreds of thousands of letters to get a season 3 made for the original.
So that was before my time. I'm not that old, Steve.
Right. That is before your time. But like, that's the most notable one even that I know of off the top of my head. But yeah, the fans rallied. There was a hashtag trending on Twitter. They flew a banner over Amazon headquarters. Video went viral of them sending a Rocinante into space on a weather balloon. And did we lose Courtney? Oh, there you are. Nope, you're muted, Courtney. But yeah, so the fans saved that show, and for there to be that type of outcry, to me, says something is going on here. You know, there's popular shows, but then there's shows that when they get canceled, they don't necessarily, you know, trigger that type of response.
No, the fandom for Expanse is absolutely passionate. I mean, the sense I got from Dragon Con. So, I mean, Doctor Who has been going for 50 years, and yet the line to get into all of the Expanse panels was blocks and blocks around buildings. I mean, longer than the lines for the Doctor Who things. It blew my mind. I've been a Whovian forever, and I just didn't anticipate, you know, the level of response. Plus, when it got canceled by Sci-Fi, it was the fans that got it turned back on, that got Amazon to pick it up. So, I mean, you know, it has such a passionate following.
And Amazon clearly believes in the show, because season 4 isn't even out yet, and season 5 is already like greenlit.
Yes.
And they also kept like the vast majority of the crew, not just the cast, but also the crew, which I'm just like, I love everything about that. They're taking care of their people, and the
actors were serious about their respect for the crew. Like Steven in one of the panels, like, cited the crew before any of the other members of the cast as his family. And it was just like so touching to hear him, you know, give that level of respect to the people that really make it happen.
Right. Yeah, you got to realize how collaborative any sort of television show or a movie is. Just because there's only so many people on the screen, there's 100 people working their asses off behind the screen to make those few people up there look good. And the Expanse does it so well. Like, their CGI, I don't know what their budget is, but man, their space scenes are so good. They're beautiful.
And they're going to get so much better with Amazon. They said they have such a budget now. And Jeff Bezos himself is a fan. They were at an event when the cast found out that they were getting picked up by Amazon. They were at a like spacey event hosted by Jeff Bezos. And he got up to present to, like, you know, the general assembly, all the invitees. And like, one of the first things he said was he turned to the cast and was like, I just want you guys to know we're picking up your show. Like, so they don't just have fans among all of us, but they have fans who truly respect what they're doing and are invested in making it better.
Yeah, George R.R. Martin was one of those fans that was like, hashtag save the Expanse. And,
and he loves the books too.
And part of what, so moving on to the lightest of spoilers, stuff that you could probably learn by watching episode 1 and not really revealing any plot points. The Expanse is set about 200 years in the future, I believe. But geopolitically, it looks very, very different than the world of today. Earth is one unified state controlled by the United Nations. Mars is another nation state, highly militarized, although Earth sees them as subject to them. Mars wants independence. And then you have the people who live and work in the asteroid belt collecting all the minerals, and they live the most extreme of lives and the most probably unfortunate of lives as well. I'm sorry, Courtney, you look like you were gasping for something to say. What do you got?
Well, just that Earth is still Earth, and there are sections that are unified, but when it's represented on a universal and literally universal scale, the United Nations speaks for Earth. Right. So, I mean, there still are factions within Earth as well. But,
of course.
But yes, the United Nations, there is an elected representative for Earth.
Right. Esteban Sadivar, if I'm correct. I think I am.
Originally.
And one thing I noticed
at the beginning of the story.
Yeah.
What's up?
So one thing that, sorry.
Go ahead. I was saying, what's up, Nessie?
Okay. Well, one thing that I did notice is even though it is different political entities, and Earth has and mankind has moved beyond on the surface, like the tribalism that we have now for race and sex and religion, they've still managed to form tribes. That was one of the big takeaways that I got from that. It's like, even though we've moved past this on the surface, still underneath, we're still trying to have an identity that is somewhat separate.
Right. I mean, that tribalism is the thing that can live, it can develop based around any sort of like shared identity, as long as you are able to have an us and them, which is part of what makes the storytelling in that series so great is that you do have people from all these different factions who you genuinely love and care about, and the best of them are striving to overcome those sort of tribalistic natures of human nature. Our sort of like main crew, the main characters are from, you have people from Earth, people from Mars, people from the Belt, and they each have different perspectives, and they're all more or less good people. Maybe one of them not so much. But yeah, we'll talk about Murder Snuggle later.
He wants to be good.
I don't know. I think that's right. He's a fascinating character to me. Anyway, I digress. But like, I can look at Mars and I can say, I see shades of modern America in Mars. I see shades of 1960s Russia in Mars, communism. I see shades of revolutionary America in Mars.
Well, very much so, because they want their independence.
Right.
Like, we're a separate planet. And so can I
go ahead.
Refer to the books, since we've already kind of spoiled that they want independence.
Okay, but that's a thing you can learn from episode 1. That's all I'm saying.
Okay, so they cite the fact that they liken Mars to America under British rule, and that they say, like, the amount of time it takes to travel to a place and occupy and control a country, or in this case, a planet that is far away and big, is absolutely impossible. So basically, you know, you can send a few people all the way across the Atlantic Ocean or all the way to the next planet, but how are you going to manage that?
Right. You can't control an empire much bigger than like a few weeks travel.
Right.
However
so
big that is.
populates and grows and the distance required.
I will say this: if you know your sort of like modern spaceflight numbers, you'll know that when we launch things to Mars, it takes about 7 months to get there. It does not take 7 months in the Expanse.
Well, the Epstein drive.
Right.
But even then, it can take a couple months. It can take a couple weeks. Like it's
weeks,
a couple weeks.
Yes.
I guess I'm thinking when they go out further, but yeah.
Yeah, like if you're going out to like Uranus or Neptune, yes, probably months. But like, and it's because with modern spaceflight technology, we get off the ground, we get into orbit, and then we use a little bit of thrust so that we're going, and then we stop. We stop adding thrust and we just coast the whole way there. That is not how the Epstein drive works. The Epstein drive is built on being 100% efficient, which is why it can't exist, by the way, because there is no machine that is 100% efficient. Hey, you get over that conceit, and that's fine. If that's the only hurdle I have to leap for 200 years of science fiction advancements, I'll take it.
Well, in the books, even with the Epstein drive, they do burn and then coast. But
yeah,
the Epstein drives gives them much more acceleration than they would otherwise have.
You might have lost Nessie.
No, come back.
Yep, she's gone. Well, if she can make it back, we will add her back in.
All right.
But but with the Epstein drive, it's so efficient with its fuel use, it can keep thrusting until it's halfway there, keeping up 1 Earth gravity of acceleration. So that's how they generate their sort of like their.
Yeah, I love the way they define acceleration by the amount of thrust and the impact it has on the gravity of the spacecraft. Like,
but that's legit. And if you look at the way they build their ships, like they're not like, if you look at the Enterprise or a Star Destroyer, they're like this, and there's a down. They're going. I'm sorry, it's backwards. They're going this direction, but gravity is this direction. But that is not how the ships and floors are oriented for that. But that's not how it works in the Expanse. If you're going this way, your floors cut through your ships like this because gravity is going to be this way.
Yeah.
And that's just so it makes its way into every aspect of design for the show.
Yes. And I love the way they take into account, like, so the people who have grown up in the asteroid belt don't have the same sense of up and down, but the Earthers are always trying to orient themselves because they've grown up on a planet with consistent gravity. So they're always trying. So even on their ships, they might have a preferred orientation where they have tables that are bolted to the ground so that they feel like they're sitting at a table or whatever. Whereas the Earthers are just like, the Belters are just like, we're on the float all the time. There is no up. There is no down.
Live the vast majority of their light in 0G. The only time they experience any gravity is when they're traveling from one place to another. And that's when their ship is accelerating and decelerating. It's incredibly interesting just how much science has become almost an additional character in the show. By the way, Nessie says she'll be back. Her internet came back, so she's switching over to her computer.
Wonderful.
So she'll be back in a minute.
Good. Yeah, speaking of the science, the in the books, it's less obvious on the show because, they were honest in one of the panels. They were like, how could we possibly find people who meet these characteristics? But in the books, the Belters' bodies are even built differently because they've grown up in 0G. So their bones are longer because they haven't been constrained by gravity, and their heads tend to be larger and they tend to be thinner. Like, there are ways that gravity impacts the way our bodies develop that we don't even think about, that they've thought about and considered and put into, you know, the plot lines. It's incredible.
Right.
Just on so many levels.
It really is. And again, we've said it before, but, you know, it bears mention again. The politics and the intrigue and the mysteries going on in this show are so juicy. And if you want a show that has a really long storytelling arc that doesn't have filler episodes that are designed to just have the characters floofing about and learning a life lesson and everything's the same at the end as it was in the beginning, except they're slightly wiser, that doesn't exist. You know, I will tell people that haven't seen the show, if the first probably 3 episodes, there's a lot of world building and character introduction and character development to set up the characters going on early in those first 3 episodes. Episode 4 comes around and the show puts its foot on the gas and it just never looks back, and it gets better and better and better. They're at the end of season 2. There's a thing that happens, and we'll get to it. 52 people, you know, for the record. That is one of my favorite scenes I've ever seen in a television show. It brings me to tears to watch it. Nessie, I hope, is back, maybe.
Yeah, I see.
We'll see.
Some indication she might be coming.
But, and then season 3 has like maybe my favorite super obvious line I've ever heard in a TV show that I still jump up and cheer for. And it's an Amos line. We'll get into it, spoilers, when I love all over Murder Snuggles. But guys, if you haven't seen The Expanse, seriously, do yourself a favor and go watch that show. It is on Amazon Prime. There are a total of 36 episodes, 10 in season 1 and then 13 each in season 2 and 3. And you can watch an episode every other day and still be caught up by the time the new season comes out, December 13th. So it is, and it is not hyperbole for me to say it's probably too early to tell, both in my fandom experience and for how much of the show has been made so far, but it might be my favorite science fiction show I've ever seen. And I watched
Firefly is so good.
Okay, but Firefly is so short. Hey, Nessie, are you back? Like, that's my only complaint. I love Firefly.
Expanse has more meat to it.
I'm a brown coat for life. I love Firefly, but Firefly is not the same type of as The Expanse. Although I will say, like, the season 4 trailer for The Expanse, where they're landing on Ilum, gave me like super Firefly vibes at some point. Nessie, you are having less than perfect success right now.
I am.
I saw you for a second. There you are.
Oh yeah, I popped out for just a second. I shut my camera off. I had to go back on mobile. My internet connection is just too spotty. Can you hear me?
Right.
Yes.
Okay.
Oh yes, we got you.
Yeah, I put my buds in too because I think I was getting some reverb.
Yeah. So Bernie agrees. She said, "What? Watch it. Give it 2 episodes." And again, there's a lot. Some people say the first few episodes aren't that great, or they're a slog, or whatever. I'm like, I disagree. They're doing the setup for the fantastic story that's to come. Although I will admit that there was a character that I didn't get at first, and I don't know. I don't know if I'm ready to move into spoilers just yet. I don't know what else needs to be said. What else can you say that's non-spoilery?
It follows the books fairly closely,
which is good.
It does.
And there are 8 books,
and they're a quick read. I mean, you know, A Song of Ice and Fire is my baby. I love it, but you have to reread it a few times before you really know the characters and care what's going on in some of the books. But Expanse sucks you in, and it goes so quickly, and it's not that dense. I mean, it's brilliant and it's smart, but there aren't, you know, a million characters to keep track of. It's very easy reading.
Although I will say the show does a good job of having a good-sized ensemble of really interesting and diverse characters.
Yes. Yeah, the diversity is great. And
It
the
really is.
representation is great. I mean, especially in the books, there are so many like poly marriages and, you know, they're just representations of if humans were allowed to evolve.
Yeah, like the way they represented, I think it was episode 3 where I was watching and I'm like, okay, this person is an ambassador and it's, you know, and he's been in 3 episodes and it's not until the 3rd episode that we see, he's in a gay marriage and he's having dinner at this other politician's house and it's just a thing and it's no big deal. And then in that same episode, there was a sex worker who's treated like an actual human being by, you know, other people in the story. And I'm like, wow, you don't get a whole lot of that, you know. So I was very happy with the way that show portrays humanity in all its forms, and every one of them is a human.
Mm-hmm. And I love the way the Belter language incorporates all languages. Like, and I mean, it just blows my mind because it's like exactly how you would think if everyone from every country moved out into space and then had to interact with each other. Things would be shortened and simplified, and there would be aspects of every language represented.
Take, for instance,
including ASL.
Yes, and they develop.
Because that's very important in a vacuum.
Yes,
yeah, when you can't hear somebody,
you can't nod and shake your head. Nobody's looking at your face.
Right, I'm going to do this for a second so I can, you know, like this means I love you. This is like thank you.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
No. Yes and no, because you can't hear each other in a vacuum, right? I'm going to get you back on the screen better, Nessie. There you are.
Oh, that's fine. I'm just happy to be here.
But and take, for instance, you'll hear it in the first episode. There's a word in Belter Creole that's welwala. And that is sort of interpreted to mean, well, one character says it means traitor to my people, but the literal origin of that word comes from gravity well, English well, wala meaning person in Hindi. So it's a welwala is a gravity well person, which to somebody from the belt is like, oh, you're so enamored with the inner planets, you know, you're a gravity well person. You're a welwala.
And they've been exploiting the people they sent out to work the asteroid belt.
Right. It would be what would be equivalent to like an Uncle Tom.
Yes. That's probably a really good way to put it, because you're right. The belt, you know, again, analog is not exactly the word I'm looking for, but the belt is every colonized people ever. The way they're exploited and the wealth of natural resources is there, but
not for them.
People that live there work to acquire those resources, but they don't get the benefit of those resources. That all goes to Earth and Mars, which is part of the, you know, part of the tension of the story.
Water being the biggest.
Water being the biggest.
Agua water. Agua aqua. That's what it is. Agua aqua.
Yeah, it's so fascinating when you see it written out too, because you can really see the roots of so many different languages.
Right.
And yet still understand exactly what they're trying to say. There's no translations. There's no subtitles.
Right. There is no subtitles. You just have to kind of figure it out.
You do figure it out.
Right.
And you do.
Because it's a little bit of this, a little bit of that.
Right. Well, okay. Anything else before we start to go full spoilers? Anything else at all? Because I want to give those who, you know, I hate encouraging people to leave the stream, but like I don't want to spoil anybody. So
I mean, I could talk a little about how charming the boys were at Dragon Con. Wes and Steven were adorable.
I wouldn't hate that.
Oh,
I hate you.
Steven,
I hate you.
Brilliant and so nerdy and so cute and so well spoken.
I'm just going to pretend you're talking
passionate.
about me.
And when he gets excited, his New York accent comes out.
I'm not from New York.
Oh,
But
and I'm also like really always into Amos. So I mean, Wes is gorgeous. His wife
Our
is
snuggle bunny.
adorable and
Our little murder
sweet.
snuggles.
Murder snuggles. I know.
Our little murder snuggles.
okay, so John, I do want to answer this. John Webster asks, books or show first? So, full disclosure, I have only watched the show. I have not read any of the books. I have listened to one of the short stories on audio. It's called The Churn. It was really, really
God,
good.
yeah, that was so good, Stephen. Thank
That's my
you for
favorite one. I
recommending
sent
that.
that to him, and he sent it to you.
And he
Yeah.
sent it to me. Yeah.
So John Webster, I think you can just start with the show if that's what you. And I know John is like he is a fan of the audio visual medium the same way I am. So you can start with the show. It's not going to hurt.
Watch the show, John.
Because they work. They're very close from all accounts. They're very close.
Yeah, if you're the type of person that doesn't want to be spoiled, watch the show first. I don't really mind. I actually kind of like knowing all the backstory and knowing all the little details of everybody's business.
Right.
It adds
Yeah.
something to me when I watch it. But, you know, I mean, they try really hard to, I think the words they used were like maintain the essence of the books. Obviously, there are some things that don't translate from one medium to another. They're point of view characters. So some of the things that would be predominantly in someone's head might not translate as well. They might need to introduce a sounding off character or something.
Right.
Right.
Move some things around. But it was all done with intention and
It comes across very well.
personality. You know, if you're the type of person that doesn't want to be spoiled or that is going to sit there, as I may have done myself a couple of times with A Song of Ice and Fire, nitpicked when things were different than my beloved. Might have done that. Still love Game of Thrones, but still, you know.
Or John, you could just read up to book 3.
Yeah, because that's where the show is.
That's where the show is right now.
And I guess what the one last point I want to make is like, I think now is a great time to jump on the show too. You've got time to watch the whole thing before we get to season 4. If you want to look at the whole series as one big story, guess what? Act 1 just ended at the end of season 3, and it's like opening up a whole new sort of like opportunity for new storytelling in the coming seasons. And the fandom for this show is so on the rise, like it's starting to catch. This show is starting to really catch. Like even within the last 6 to 8 months, this show has really, really taken off.
Yeah,
all of my
just
friends are now watching it.
Right.
That,
like,
you know, I was just the nerd in the background.
Right, and now you're the cool one who's you're the hipster one.
We knew all along.
I think that just means I'm old, but that's okay.
Courtney, you are
never, ever.
I've done a lot of things before they were cool, but that's just because I've been around for a while.
Yeah. I did D&D long before it was cool.
Hey.
Same.
Okay, well, folks, I don't know what else is to be said that's non-spoilery. So I think this is where we wave our hands and we say, if you don't want to be spoiled, duck out now, go watch all of The Expanse immediately, and then come back and watch the second half of this video.
Go binge.
It should only take you 36 hours. So,
and it's only going to get better when Amazon gets it.
Right.
Oh, they're going to do it's such justice. If Jeff Bezos is a fan, I mean, he's
right.
Let's throw some billions at it.
Yes, I can't wait. I mean, that is one of the things that I love about sci-fi is the visual spectacle. So to have that level of budget embrace a story that I already love and make it like visually incredible, because I mean, you know, it's about to get real. I can tell you for the story. It's getting better.
It's going to get lit.
Yeah, so when I say spoilers, we're show spoilers, not book spoilers.
No,
I haven't read the books, you know, just for anybody else in the chat wants to know, we are talking show only spoilers. If you want to talk about how the books differ from the show, or you know, because I know on the show some characters are sort of like condensed from multiple characters in the books, but like, you know, it is what it is. They did that on Game of Thrones too.
I mean, how many actors can you hire?
Right,
how many,
right.
you
It's a
know,
lot, right.
It's a shorter medium. You have to get people invested. But
Right.
every decision they made was made to make it the best product possible.
Right. So, how about that Amos?
Yeah.
Right? Man.
Right?
He's so cute.
Okay, so hands down, man, he's my favorite character on that show. And
top 3.
Number 1. I mean, there's lots of great characters, don't get me wrong, but he is my number 1. And I love him because of his complex psychology and like moral, ethical worldview. It's just so intensely interesting. Like, he is basically without his own moral code, but he can recognize one in someone else, and then he attaches to that person.
Right.
He did it with Naomi. He did it with Prax. He did it with Anna.
Well, Wes
and Lydia. Can we talk about Lydia?
Yes, but what did Wes say? I'm sorry.
He said that it's a conscious choice on Amos's part, which is true, that
Right.
he seeks people who he thinks have a strong moral compass and he tries to follow them. So it was in response to a question that a fan asked about whether Amos has autism, because it is clearly spoken that he has trouble with social cues. There are definite moments in the books where he sees a sequence of muscle tension and eye movements, but he doesn't understand what it's actually supposed to mean. He understands that something emotional is going on between other people, but he's trying very hard to figure out what that means.
To put it together.
Yeah. And Wes, obviously refused to put a label on it, but he did say that Amos has a hard time making decisions about like right and wrong and social interactions, and therefore he seeks people who he truly respects, like Holden and Naomi and others, and he tries to gauge his behavior based on what they would want him to do. Lydia is another one. He frequently thinks like, what would Lydia tell me to do right now? And she was no angel, but she encouraged him to be better than,
right.
some of his baser instincts. Right. But his baser instincts are human. I mean,
yeah, but that's part of what I love about the character too, is that he does cave to those baser instincts sometimes. Like, he's a big cuddly teddy bear until all of a sudden
you hurt someone he loves, or a child, or
you can just make him angry. Well, but like when it comes out, you better run for the hills, y'all, because he ain't playing.
He's not playing. He's playing
from
for
the
keeps.
mean streets of
Baltimore.
Which might be like a half an hour for me.
Right. But okay, so let's just open it up to anything, any subject you want to talk about right now. We'll just see where the conversation takes us. And if you don't have something, I've got a question to pose to the two of you.
Go for it.
Okay. Okay.
Shoot.
Now, Courtney, you've read all the books that are out?
I have read them all. I am on one of the later ones, Babylon's Ashes or something. I might reread.
Okay.
But,
so my question is this. What the heck do we know what's going on with the proto molecule by the end of book 8? I mean, not what is going on, but do we know?
So much goes on. I mean, they use it to evolve crazy technology. The allegory is like a monkey discovering a microwave, right? So like they see that the light goes on, so it's a light. They hear it make a beep, so it's a beeper. They use it for all of these things without ever understanding what its true purpose was. But, all of these scientists study it and develop all kinds of like new technologies. yeah, it just keeps getting deeper and deeper and deeper.
So the short answer is we really don't know.
The story continues to evolve and becomes more compelling the further into it you get.
That's a good answer.
But there's just so much to come.
Like I say, that's a great answer.
Who created the proto-molecule and who made the proto-molecule? The people who created the proto-molecule, or not people, but the alien civilization that created the proto-molecule, who made them extinct? And
who are they afraid of? That's what scares me.
We get to see a little bit of that.
What are they afraid of?
Yes.
Yeah, I can't wait for that to be part of the story. I mean, again, I'm not asking you to tell me what happens. I'm just asking more or less like, do they tell us eventually? And it sounds
we just continue to learn.
That's great.
Continue
like it answers
the
question and asks two more. That's great.
Yes, every time.
Right.
And then there's some human who thinks they can exploit it for their own purposes and try to use it to do something else. It just...
Somebody's always willing to push the boundaries of what is acceptable.
And their technology is where they can alter the brains of the scientists to remove compassion.
To make sociopaths out of scientists.
Those scientists are just results driven, just excited by the study and...
Crazy. Okay.
It speaks so much of humanity. It tells us so much more about ourselves than about the aliens.
Because it does it puts the characters in the story in situations where you would be like, ooh, what do I do here? What would I do? What's the right thing? And I don't know that there's a clear answer. And to me, that's a sign of fantastic storytelling.
Leonard,
the human heart in conflict with itself.
Yes. Leonard, who plays Praxidike Ming, I can't remember his last name right now, but he was saying that he firmly believes that by the important science he's doing with the proto-molecule, that he is helping humans to evolve and trying to save human civilization. No, not
that's Dexter. That's Dexter.
No, the
Strickland.
Oh, Mao.
The Mao. Yes, Mao.
Oh, Mao.
Yes, Julian Mao.
Yes. I'm sorry.
That's okay. Hey, we're all humans.
That he tells himself that his character genuinely believes he's trying to save humanity.
Right.
And there are scientists out there who genuinely believe that the work they're doing is important for the evolution of the human race. Even though they're the baddies, they're the evils.
Right.
Terry Chen was not at Dragon Con, but thank you, Betsy.
Betsy's my mom. I don't know if you know that.
And
hi, Mom. I met her at the barbecue.
Yes, you did. She's warm.
She's a
fixture. She's a fixture here on my channel.
And part of the reason why the scientists are so intent on studying the molecule is that of fear, because they know it came from another civilization. And what was the intent? And we are as ants on a piece of dust, or an amoeba, to what the entity that built the proto-molecule are. So understanding it costs. They see themselves as being the saviors of humanity, but is the cost so high? The cost is very high.
Right.
And wouldn't you be curious? I mean, if you had the technology to study something like this and it landed in your lap, and it just depends on who you are as a human. Are you trying to further the human race? Are you trying to use it as a weapon? In what way, when you discover this amazing, advanced relic of another civilization, how would you put it to use? I mean, it really speaks more to humanity than it does the proto-molecule.
Right. And I think that's a really solid point about that leads into like maybe why I love the show. People that know me know I love like morality, ethics talks. Like when I do Con of Thrones panels, that's my favorite thing to talk about because George writes about it so well. But like you say, the fear response, Nessie, is the reason some of these scientists are doing the thing. And like to me, that's a very human thing. And it's sort of like, what is, we can sit back and be like, oh, that's a terrible thing to do. But would we really feel that way in the face of existential horror, which circles back to one of my other favorite writers. I mean, he's a terrible human, but Lovecraft. There's a certain Lovecraftian feel to some of the storytelling in The Expanse as well. Because of that
otherworldly cosmic nihilism.
Right. So it's so far beyond our ability to comprehend. Like I have this image that whatever we see of the proto-molecule is like we are fish living in a pond, and some society sticks its finger in the pond. The proto-molecule is the finger we see. The rest of it is so far beyond our comprehension. Like we think the finger is the whole thing.
Yeah, who created the proto-molecule and what other relics of that civilization exist? And the further we go out into the universe, what are we going to find?
The big empty isn't so empty.
It might not be that empty. It's exciting. I'm excited. I can't wait.
Me too.
I cannot wait to see it on screen. It is so good in the books. I just can't wait to see someone actually create it with the technology and the CGI, and it's gonna be incredible. And Amazon has the budget and they have the motivation, and
so Courtney, what did you think? What was your impression of the trailer that they dropped?
I actually haven't even watched it.
Oh, really?
I didn't even know it was out there. I have to watch that now. I know. Okay. I've been slacking on the show. I've been sucked into the books.
Well, there's an actual trailer that came out at Comic-Con, but there's also like a 5-minute scene with next to no dialogue in it that is gorgeous.
I can't wait.
Like I would just consider, I think they released that just so you could see the cinematography that they're using for the new season, and it is amazing.
And it's a perfect time for them to switch like channels or whatever you want to call it, because there is a plot shift from the third book to the fourth. So I don't even think it will feel disruptive. Like the universe just keeps expanding and expanding, and I think that it's the
Expanse.
Yeah, and
it's bigger than we can ever know.
I wonder if they did that on purpose.
Hey, I don't know.
Could be.
It's like they put some thought into it.
Okay, so I heaped praise on my favorite character. Who's your favorite character, Courtney?
Well, besides Amos, who I have a giant crush on, and now I have a crush on Steven, the actor, but
but that's he's not a character in The Expanse.
And I can relate to Holden. I empathize with his decisions. I think if I had to join a faction, I would join the Rocinante. But I really love Naomi, and she has a lot of backstory too. She has kind of a little bit of a shady past,
I've heard bits and pieces of it. And, looking forward to finding out more. Naomi's a fantastic character.
She's making better decisions as an adult than she did as a youth. And
imagine that.
I might relate to that. And she's actively trying to better her life and better herself, and but she's done some things she's not so proud of, and she has to reconcile with those somewhat. And she's a very well developed, very fascinating character.
Right.
I really love her.
cool.
Bobby is badass.
Yeah.
I want to be Bobby.
I want to be Bobby. Crap.
I want to be Bobby.
Okay, we all agree. We'll take it on,
Bobby's a badass.
every third weekend will change, Nessie, do you have a favorite character?
I do. I mean, well, it's a toss up. There's, I've got 3 favorites, and of course you can't discount Amos. But besides Amos, Chris Jen has got to be my second favorite. I mean, she is the badass, gnarly, and some people think she has no filter, but like Steven and I were discussing, she is very calculating on. Oh gosh, her ratio of F-bombs per episode is crazy. And it's even more so in the book.
She uses it.
Yes.
She uses it very effectively.
Compete or not compete, but like to be heard among the powerful men in her arena. She puts them off by being powerful.
Wearing the mask. Yes. She calls, or Arjun, her husband, he calls it the mask.
Her husband.
When she puts on that persona where she's so abrasive, she's like a petulant, whiny, older, cantankerous grandmother who will drop the F-bomb at any moment just to put people off their game. Because, physically she's not imposing, but mentally and politically and intellectually, she is just 2 steps ahead of the game. And if she doesn't like the game, she'll change the rules about her. She sucks people in. I'll play. Go ahead, Courtney.
No, because she's an old woman, like she feels like she has to be as powerful as she can with her language because she needs to assert herself in a different way. But she'll also play the doting old, like I'm stuck in this past mentality and let people underestimate her when it works for her too.
To her advantage.
Yeah, she's brilliant.
I absolutely love her. And she just has such the fact that she's so protective over she's thinking not just of her children whom she lost her son to ridiculous skiing accent. She has grandkids. She's thinking not just of her family but everybody's children. That's her main goal. I think she says she described herself as being on team let's not fuck shit up.
Exactly.
Let's have a future that the children are safe, that we're not going to cause an unnecessary war where hundreds of thousands of innocent lives are going to be lost for something so silly as a time lapse because we don't know what's happening during 20 minutes of like an action in space where Mars and the United Nations ships are just having a little macho contest, and let's not start a war because somebody decided to have for lack of a better word, a pissing contest in space.
Yeah, she'll call him on it too. She'll be like, "Put your dick back in your pants."
Right.
Exactly. She calls toxic masculinity out at every step.
I love it.
She was the first character that I thought was going to be my favorite, Chris Jen, just because like her introduction was so compelling to me, like regal, elegant looking, get splashed with a water balloon, tickle fight with my grandson, go torture somebody go
torture a belter, a terrorist.
Right. I was like, whoa, this woman is interesting.
Yes.
Just wait.
She's got depth. She's got such depth of character.
Right.
There's so many things I want to spoil right now.
Go ahead. Full spoilers, but I will. Book stuff.
No.
Book stuff. I got you.
You don't want me to, and I won't.
Yeah.
I won't. But like
even
Nessie, read those books. You are gonna love.
Hit me up later, Courtney. Just hit me up later. Just the fact that she will get in, that she just gets in a racing ship and goes at 12 G's for like how long was it that she was risking a stroke just to stop a war?
Yeah.
You know, she put herself physically in harm's way to stop an international incident. So, you know, that just shows that she's a badass. I think I'm dropping too many. I think I'm channeling my inner Christian. I'm saying too many
yeah,
too many blue words.
Anybody got your kids watching right now?
Yeah, my kid's probably watching right now.
Mine probably will later.
Hi, Kat, if you're watching.
Yeah.
What was I going to say? Oh yeah, they're like, even Holden. Like Holden is maybe the most interesting self-insert white boy I've seen in a long time. You know, he is actually an interesting character when you get into his background and his like motivations and
parents who
interesting home life.
Yeah, it's just.
But he genuinely means well, and he's always working for the greater good and like putting himself out there, trying to save humanity over and over and over again.
Like I was telling Steven, he reminds me so much of Dunk, you know, from Dunk and Egg, how he stumbles from just one crisis or one, he just stumbles into things so haphazardly and then manages to save the day some kind of way.
Yeah, but he keeps failing upward.
Yes.
He fails upward.
Steven at DragonCon at one of his panels was saying that, you know, someone asked like, what is one thing you have learned from playing this character? And he was like, that failure is not an obstacle, that you can have a spectacular failure and still rise from the ashes and create something amazing. And this is a character is constantly, you know, just stumbling through life, trying to do his best. And, you know, sometimes everything falls apart around him, but he always keeps trying to do his best. And afterwards, he just fails upward. He never lets it get him down. He genuinely wants the greater good. And, you know, I mean, it's a little bit of like a messiah complex that he thinks that he can save all of humanity, but he keeps trying to do it and making
considering
improvement.
Real talk, he kind of does, you know.
Yeah,
he kind of does, you know.
He kind of does.
And that the fact that the proto molecule, and I'm not sure what's going to go on past book 3, so I'm just going to keep it up from 1 through 3 or seasons. But the proto molecule kind of picks him, the human that it wants to talk to and communicate with. You know how through Miller.
If it happened because of Miller's familiarity with him, though.
Well, I
think is an interesting point to be made.
Yeah, well, Miller's his mentor for the first season, the first 2 seasons, that they have such a connection, and then it's like he tries to be like Miller, and then he tries to say, no, I really have to back away from that because that's not me, so he kind of loses himself and comes back to himself. But the proto-molecule has such a connection to the Rocinante because there's just that little bitty bit that they never quite got rid of that's hanging around there in the shaft alleys of the engine room. So,
and
it allows for communication.
That Miller wants to be like Holden because, the proto-molecule chooses him. And Holden didn't even realize that Miller saw him as this person who had the power to change things for the better and to make an impact. And so,
well, I mean, he did accidentally start a war or 2.
Yes.
So he's got a lot of influence, he knows that people
in the end. Tries.
Yeah, but he's got a big presence, shall we say.
Yes.
A very recognizable figure. Everybody knows who he is. Everybody knows what he looks like.
Yeah.
He's the face next to Remember the Can't.
Yeah. Exactly. There was on every bit of graffiti all over the belt. You know, everybody, the Belters all know who he is. He was all across the vid screens on Earth and Mars. I mean, he's a very recognizable face now. So he's kind of the face of the proto-molecule in every aspect of the word.
But he remains unaffiliated. So
Right.
he does not, even though he grew up on Earth, he doesn't always choose the side of Earth. He doesn't always choose the side of Mars. He doesn't always choose the belt. He is kind of like the viewpoint that we could all relate to, where you can see the flaws in the system and you're like, okay, these people are right about this. I'm going to deal with them when it comes to this. These people have this going for them. I'm going to work there. And it just, I mean, he maintains his independence and he maintains clarity.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Good. You want to keep it there?
did he bring
Sorry,
it up for all of
I had
us?
Actually, he probably did make enough for everybody in the chat.
All right. Well, I'll send you my address when we get off the stream, and you can have him mail it to me.
Yeah, I had to be the official taste tester of the gumbo.
Oh, man. Gumbo? Really? Oh, you're killing me.
Oh, it's
Think they have gumbo
delicious.
in Spain?
It's nasty. She wants to bury it in the backyard.
Oh, I want gumbo. Bring it
too.
over here.
Yeah.
I love Cajun food in general.
It was good too.
Married in Louisiana, man. They get gumbo.
Right. Okay, so one of this, I don't think I can get through an Expanse talk with people who know the show and not bring up 52 people.
Oh my God.
I ugly cried in that scene, y'all. I
still ugly cry. I still ugly cry. That is the most encapsulating of episode of just the whole Belter mentality.
Yeah.
You know,
and then
that just
people line up
got it for me.
And, you know, the people who are playing those getting on and off, they played that the dignity and the fear and the sadness and the heartbreak. Oh man, it's just kudos to everyone who's on screen for that. I mean,
they did such a great job.
Right. To make you feel.
If you didn't love the Belters before.
Right.
If
you didn't love the Belters before, then you better love them then.
Oh, just the speech, the way like Naomi risks herself so much to go out there and save the few she can, and then the way that everybody's sort of like, for lack of a better term, they nut up and like they get in lines, and if you don't make it, you don't make it, and you deal with it, and just knowing that you're being left behind to die.
Yes, to die. There's nobody else is coming for you.
Right.
You know, gosh.
But it's character growth for the main characters, because in the first episodes, they just get out of Eros. And, you know, they might like try to save a couple people they interact with, but for the most part, they have this big ship and they just leave.
Right.
So, it really hit Alex and Naomi very hard about, you know, leaving behind so many at Eros Station. You know, they are just riddled with the guilt of leaving so many people behind, and Naomi's like, well, maybe we can go back and save some, maybe we can make a vaccine and those people can still be saved, and Alex is just, you know, when he's talking to those few people that he was able to save, and he's like, this ship's so big, you know, we could have saved so many people. Did you even try?
No, they didn't.
And even that one little girl that they had to leave, that they left in the tunnel because she wouldn't come. I think it broke Naomi. I think that really broke her.
Because that's literally what she's saying when she tells the guy in the docks on Ganymede, tells him, I was on Eros and I didn't do enough. That's, I think, specifically what she's referencing is that little girl.
Right. And not just that little girl. I mean, like, spoilers, you know, Naomi's got a kid somewhere.
Melissa Schultz, thanks for dropping by, but we are in full-blown spoiler territory right now. So I love you, sister. Thanks for dropping by, but you might want to dip out until after you've seen the show, or come back, when we're done and watch the first hour or so where we do non-spoiler stuff. But I would hate to spoil this amazing show for anyone. So I'll leave it up to you, though.
Spoilers. I like having.
But for those that don't want it,
some people don't like them.
No, I don't.
I mean, if you don't care, by all means, stay if you don't care. But we are in full-blown spoiler talk. Okay, cool. Carry on. So, okay, how about some trivia? Yeah, I know. Courtney begged me not to do this, but I'm doing it anyway. Okay.
It's been so long. I haven't watched since season 3 came out.
That's okay. That just means you're a human being with a less than perfect memory. That's why it's a trivia contest, not just I'm going to ask questions that you can easily answer, because that's boring. Okay.
Okay, we'll fail upward.
Which means he's going to make it hard.
He's going to make it hard.
Okay. So, we all know and love the Rocinante and her crew. So my question will be focused on the Rocinante, or questions will be focused on Rocinante and her crew. So the Rocinante is a Martian gunship frigate that originally was given what designation? What is the first name of the Rocinante?
Yeah, I got that one. The Tashi.
Yeah, the Tachi. What is the other name the Rocinante has gone by on the show, other than the Rocinante and the Tachi?
And I know what it is too, but that's sad. When she was undercover as the gas hauler when they were going to Ganymede.
Oh.
No. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the name that Prax recommends that they go under for maybe just 2 or 3 episodes while they're trying to get to Ganymede. And yeah, I guess that is the same time period. And Anna Iglesias is right. It's the tree name. It's a tree. It's a plant. Nobody. Okay. It's the Pinus.
Of course, it's a plant. It's a Prax name.
Well,
it's a plant.
The Pinus contorta, or just the contorta for short.
Oh, yeah.
I don't remember if that happens in the books or if that's.
Maybe not. I don't know.
I don't know. It's been.
But yeah. Okay, so it was the Tachi, then it was the Rocinante, then it was the Pinus contorta, and now it's the Rocinante again.
All right, Stephen. Where did he get Rocinante from?
It's from Don Quixote.
His horse. Good. All right.
And that's what Holden is good at, just jousting at windmills.
Yeah.
Hold on.
You could just picture little Holden growing up on Tales of
There it is. Don Quixote.
On Earth.
Yep. Okay, so where is Alex from? And you can't just say Mars because that's not specific enough. What part of Mars?
Innis Shallows? Innis.
He's from, I thought it was Mariner Valley.
Mariner Valley.
Yeah, with that really weird, combination of people from India and Texas.
Yeah, which is why he is a ethnically Indian man who says cowboy and listens to country music and kind of got the drawl. I love it.
Mars was settled by Indians and Texans first, and
one of the things
the culture
I think makes Mars so interesting is the fact that the declining Earth with all of its trash and pollution and everything and overpopulation means that the best and brightest left Earth and went to Mars, which is why Mars is the techno-industrial powerhouse.
Maybe in the Mariner Valley, but I remembered that it was Bobby that lives in Innis Shallows, and it's hood.
Okay, it's hood. Oh, Bobby. Man, how have I not mentioned Bobby up until now?
We all wanted to be Bobby.
But
Oh, yes,
Bobby
that's
can
right.
totally live in his shallows and hold her own and
Oh,
take
yeah.
out like drug cartels.
Yeah, if we dropped Bobby into the churn in Baltimore, I think she'd come out on top.
Oh yeah. Oh God.
What?
I love her armor.
Or
I
go down
love
swinging really hard.
Bobby and her armor are just a force to be reckoned with.
Bobby outside of
Bobby
her
outside of
I
her armor.
know.
Yeah.
and I
But
can't think of the actress's name off the top of my head. She
Um,
is gorgeous
she
and like
is.
5'11", very statuesque, Amazonian type woman.
beautiful.
But they don't play Bobby for appearance at all, and I really appreciate that. The same way, like Gwendolyn Christie is a very tall, statuesque, beautiful woman, but Brienne of Tarth was like they never made her pretty. I'm throwing my air quotes up, if you get what I'm saying.
Well, one of the characteristics of growing up on Mars with the lower gravity would be that you would end up taller. So that they chose. Yes. And she has Samoan ancestry. I don't know whether the actress does, but Bobby
She does.
She does. Yeah. But yeah, that was a big part of like, in the book, she's so much bigger than she even is on screen because she's over 6 foot tall. She's 6.5 foot tall in the books. And she's just massive.
Thanks, Mom.
Yeah, I think Frankie Adams is 5'11", but that's still a tall lady. You know, any lady that I look straight in the eye, I'm like, whoa, you're tall. But I wouldn't hate looking straight into her eyes. Anyway, I digress. This is not a thirst trap stream.
I mean, did you hear me gush about Amos?
I did, and I'm right there with you. Like, I'm a straight man, but like I would cuddle up next to Wes Chatham any night.
Oh yes, please. He's adorable.
Okay, you know what, ladies? I'm just going to let you. Anything you want to say, or anything from the people in the chat. Anything you would like to talk about? We've got this whole great show. We've kind of skimmed over the very surface of it. And real talk, we might do another one of these streams, another Expanse-oriented stream or two before the season actually starts.
Well, speaking of Wes and how cute he is,
okay.
There was a moment at DragonCon in one of his panels where these old ladies who had worked with his father at a plant in Atlanta, came and got up and were like telling stories about how his dad used to talk about how proud he was of his son acting, and they had been following his career. And the way he responded to them so warmly, and his wife got their contact information at the end, and it was just like a homecoming for him because he's from Atlanta. And it was just so cute to see him like hugging these old ladies that like had known his dad, that had been proud of him by proxy. And it was just, it was so sweet. Like, he's a great actor and he's a gorgeous man, but he's a lovely person too.
Yeah. Everything that I've seen from them, on their social media profile or their presence, I should say, it just seemed very approachable. They're not, and their interviews and they just seem like they're very down to earth. They haven't got their, they haven't gotten their big actor's head yet. They're all, it's still on our level.
I kind of find that to be particularly true when I watch interviews with Wes and with Cass Anvar.
Cass,
those two seem to me to be like those are the ones I want to invite over to play D&D with me,
And they're very close with each other. Like the camaraderie is so obvious, the way they play silly jokes off each other, and the fact that like they get together every weekend to rehearse on Sundays, and Steven knows what treats everybody wants. So he gets like dark chocolate for Wes, and he gets like certain teas for other people. And, they're invested in the material. They've both read the books, and they absolutely just like they love science fiction. They love nerdy fandom. They were just they were like bros, you know, like the way that when they laughed, they leaned into each other. Just you could tell they were friends. It was very cute. It was really cute to see.
Okay, so we've got a really good question from Anna Iglesias.
It was the little things that made each other happy, and
hey, that's community, and I'm all about it.
Yeah, it was adorable.
But Anna Iglesias has a good question. She's like, I want to know what happened to the civilization that created the proto molecule. Any theory? Yeah, I think.
Well, we know what happened to them.
I think the White Walkers got them. But I'm only on season 3 of the TV show. I haven't read any of the books, so I really can't. I don't even have a theory yet.
I learned more about them from the books, but even I don't know what made them extinct or if they're extinct. So, and I don't want to spoil anything.
Right. So, I mean, Anna, maybe I'll think about that. And, you know, like I say, maybe in about a month or so, we'll do another one.
If I made a theory, it wouldn't be a theory. It would.
Right. It would be a spoiler.
Yeah.
But I'll think about it, Anna. And maybe when we do another one of these in a month or so, I'll have an answer for you.
I have an answer for Melissa, though. It's definitely Avasarala. The snarkiest character.
Yes.
Oh, she is a badass.
Without doubt.
And you are going to love her.
I mean, Drummer's got her moments, but nobody could touch Christian Avasarala.
No, the snarkiest is definitely Christian.
That's Christian.
By a country mile.
Dry wit and scathing sass.
Cutting.
You are going to love her.
I love her.
Yeah.
I love her.
And she takes on the most powerful men in the room. She
and sits them on their butt.
The world. Yes,
and puts them in their place
and makes them feel like little ornery schoolboys. She's.
Yep.
She'll be your favorite for sure.
When she refers to the Secretary of the UN, the President of the UN, so basically the leader of Earth, as the bobblehead. That it just makes his face in front of people.
Thinks she's joking, and she's like,
and
"No,
she's
you're just
not."
The pretty head they put on the news feeds."
She's got dignitary.
Because you nod and smile, and I mean, and we might
and read the script that we give you.
Sitting around
political history, maybe, possibly.
Yeah, sitting around a table with dignitaries from Mars. Questioning somebody, and they're like, where is this going? She's like, wherever the hell I want it to go.
Exactly.
That woman is, she's fire, man. And
she is.
Somebody, maybe it was, I'm not gonna say who, I can't remember, but somebody was talking about they felt like they could do a 2-hour live stream on Christian Avasarala's wardrobe. You know,
oh my God, it's gorgeous. It is so gorgeous.
It is. And I love that they retain the traditional costumes and stuff.
It's very well, she's a Persian actress. I'm not sure if Avasarala is meant to be Persian, but she's definitely Middle Eastern. Her character is Middle Eastern, and you're right. It has a lot of that flavor, although it looks like traditional with future influences. It's really really good.
Yeah, and she puts thought into how she chooses her wardrobe. And she also, it's so meta because in the books she's like, fuck, the world is going to ashes, and I have to care what I wear to do this interview.
Right.
I have to think about what to wear to this meeting. But
because of her image.
Right.
It does matter, and she makes important choices. And you get this point of view of her where it's I'm going to put on enough blush that I look like I haven't been awake for 35 hours, but not so much that I
right.
it's just I find I love reading sci-fi and fantasy, and a lot of the authors tend to be male, and they don't always write female characters as well as I might like to. These men write this
They
woman
did.
in a way that I relate to her as a woman. It's wonderful.
They knocked it out of the park. They really did. They knocked her character right out of the ballpark.
Yeah, she's, like I say, she was the first, like, episode 1. I'm like, she's my favorite. Amos took over the number 1 spot for me eventually, but Christian is just, oh, she's so good. She's so good. And
She
it's
really is.
and it's that charisma and force of personality that really carries it. And it doesn't help
And
that
she balances work and family,
Right.
and she's wise in so many ways, and yeah.
And she's motherly, and at the same time she could like crack your head together if you're acting up. So
Yep.
she's just amazing. She's just so well
But
written.
she's considerate and touching, and she finds ways to like pay people without
What
money.
they really want.
Really
They're-
want. Like I
Give
have
them their heart's
power.
desire.
and I can use it to save your family, or just
smart, discerning, capable
and
woman.
kind.
And like will sit in a room with 2 people who are her enemies, who are in cahoots with each other.
Mhm.
It's all like they don't know that she doesn't know that they know that she knows, that type of thing. So
Right.
under the table, but like she'll be talking to one of them, telling them to tell a third party something, but meanwhile the dressing down she's giving to that third party is meant for the 2 people in the room. She's so good at it, man. Like,
Oh, she has the burn down.
Yeah.
She just gives you
does,
the
but
burn.
she's also a great negotiator. Like she can make people see her viewpoint and
then
encourage
somebody in
people
the
to
middle.
work for the greater good. She's really into collaborating and
Oh, Courtney, you're breaking up pretty bad.
working together.
Is she breaking up for you, Nessie?
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah, Courtney, we're having some lag problems on your end.
But Courtney's right about, Avasarala is able to, she can work with anyone. If she feels like she can avert a crisis by, like in, the first couple of episodes, she refers to Fred Johnson as a terrorist, and he went rogue, went native, and and then later she's having meetings with him and negotiating with him and wants to talk to him because he's got the information she needs. She can work with anybody to get the job done,
and is willing to bend to meet people in the middle,
right?
And willing to take personal risk. Oh, we lost Courtney. Hopefully she'll be back shortly.
Yeah, I think her connection kind of went wonky, kind of like mine did.
It happens. It's the world of modern technology.
Mm-hmm.
Did anybody else in the chat have stuff they want to talk about? Or Nessie, anything you want to bring up?
Let's see. We talked about.
I mean, like the cast is big enough that it's impossible to hit on every character that's great. Like
Right.
Drummer is interesting. Admiral Souther is interesting. Jean-Pierre Mao is interesting. Melba is interesting. Anna Volavada is interesting. And we haven't even touched those characters hardly.
And the Dawes is very interesting.
Yeah.
Dawes. We haven't even talked about the OPA.
No,
we
haven't.
kind of touched on, we've talked about Mars, we've talked about Earth, but we really haven't talked about what, how the OPA is the biggest third party, that's out there right now. And they're the rising force, so to speak. They're the grassroots that are, they aren't perceived by Mars and Earth as being a threat, but if they wanted to, and as as they've come together, they're not just a terrorist organization anymore. They're becoming a nation, a political entity that, is now going to be on par with Earth and Mars, because let's face it, he who controls the supply,
Right.
it has the power. Power resides, where people think it does. And right now, having be the gateway to the outer planets, the midway point, where everybody has to stop for fuel and water and air. They've always held, a position of power if, they could ever have the organizational skills to pull it off. And now they're becoming a military presence. They've got their warships. They've got nukes. They've got a say. And I just think it's fascinating, seeing the groundwork on this new nation that's going to be arising in the outer planets.
Yeah, I agree. It's probably one of the things I'm most looking forward to in season 4 is seeing how the belt changes from everything they did in season 3, which took them from fringe group that was sort of terrorist, sort of freedom fighters, sort of, political activists, but brought them into like a political entity that represents a nation state.
Right. They've got a seat at the table now.
Yeah, and earned it in a way that.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The way that they set aside tribalism first,
right,
to offer help to everyone that needed it when they were the only one that had the help that could be given, which is a very Belter thing to do, is to help people around you.
Because you have to, because you are out there in the big empty. The only people that can help you are your neighbor. You know, if you're a ship in distress, you've got to answer the call. If you get that distress call, you've got to answer the call, because one day it might be you. And that is so, they have to depend on one another, because no one else is going to help them.
Right. Yeah, there is no, if there's no call the cops and they'll be there, or call the fire department.
There's no Coast Guard.
Or the ambulance, or
no tow trucks.
Right. The nearest help is probably, best case scenario, days away. When you're surrounded by the death that is hard vacuum of space, that's as good as having no help at all.
Exactly.
Okay, Anna Iglesias says, okay, am I the only one who thinks Dawes is a psycho? You are not the only one, but that story he tells about his sister, I always, that is such a fascinating character study. But Dawes talks about sacrifice, but he's never the one who is the sacrifice. So
who is the sacrifice? He's always making the choice for somebody else.
Right. That's where not that, the story about how he killed his sister is so gut wrenching, but it's such a great piece of world building for what it's like to be a Belter, what a Belter's life can be like, and how poor they were, and the type of choices they had to make just to survive.
Right.
Because I don't think that Dawes killing his sister makes him a monster. Not necessarily. It doesn't make him a good guy for sure, but
I think it makes him a very pragmatic person.
Right.
He can make those morally gray choices.
But his decision to make sacrifices, which is always somebody else actually putting their life on the line. That's where I have sort of that's where I part ways with Dawes. Right.
Right. Because he never puts his own self in the line of fire.
Right.
He always has other people do the groundwork, so to speak. Be the person who puts themselves in harm's way.
I'm sending Courtney a message real quick. See if she's gonna make it back, because we are getting close to the 2-hour mark, so we're not gonna go just a whole lot longer.
Yeah, I've got a pot of gumbo in there waiting on me.
Yeah, no doubt, right? It's getting dinner time, huh? My mom, who is one of the biggest Star Trek fans I know, is also a new Expanse fan like myself, but she's had just as much fun talking about it today as the rest of us. It is fantastic. Oh, look, there she is. We don't have
Here she
camera,
is.
but I bet she'll be back in a second.
Yeah, I thought I had it figured out. What's going on now?
We can hear you. We can't see you.
We can't see you, but we can hear you.
Oh,
Unless in the last couple
I
of minutes you
fixed it.
somehow changed to look like a big camera with a red line through it.
no, that's
Yeah.
not me. I'm trying to fix it. I thought I had it fixed. And as far as I can see on my end, my camera's working great.
Oh well.
Well,
You know, we're basically kind of coming to the end anyway.
I'm sorry, guys. I don't know. It says the camera's working. I clicked stop cam and it stopped it.
Okay.
Now I click start cam and it has that weird camera thing. But when I go to my camera, it's working great.
Well, we still have access to your beautiful voice and your fantastic brain, so I'll keep you.
I'm so sorry, darling.
It's not your fault. It's not, you know.
Hey, we lost me completely there for a while. You know, we've had quite a few AV issues with this stream, and it's like,
you know.
but it's not a live stream if we don't, right, Stephen?
Right, exactly. I mean, I remembered to mute my phone before the stream started, so something else had to go wrong.
It says this is the camera that's attached. The camera is working great. It says you're in the show. Everyone can see and hear you, but
everyone can hear you anyway. It's a half truth. So, ladies, I'm going to turn the floor over to each of you. Final thoughts. Anything else last bits you want to say before we send Nessie off to eat her gumbo?
Oh, you need to eat your gumbo.
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, the longer it sits, the better it's going to get.
True.
I guess I just like to say, if you haven't taken the time to watch the show, if you haven't taken the time, make the time. It's the best thing on television now. It may be the best thing on television for a while. Just even if you're not a fan of science fiction, you can find something to love about it. You know, because it just
the people that weren't fans of fantasy found things to love in Game of Thrones. You do not have to be a science fiction fan to really love this show. And hi, Shar. I'm glad you made it.
Shar.
Yeah. Hey, Shar.
Shar is Nessie's non-biological sister.
Yes, she's my sister from another mister.
Right. Melissa Schultz asks, should I read the books before watching the show?
Not necessary.
Yeah, you do not have to. We lost Courtney
again.
Yeah, we might just, it is what it is. No, Melissa, I have not read the books. My impression is that you can do either one because the books and the show apparently follow each other very, very closely.
Very, very much so.
So
everything that I've read so far there's been like I said, was talking to Stephen, there's some compression, but very little. Very little. The plot is the same. The characters are basically the same. You just get maybe a little more information than in the books. Than they're able to expand upon in the show. But it's not necessary. I didn't, and I thoroughly enjoyed it.
Yeah, like I'm fully on board having only watched the show. Okay, I listened to one of the short stories on audio, but that I don't know that even counts. Hey, there she is.
Hey,
normal computer webcam thing. I don't know.
Oh, you must be on phone now.
It's working.
Okay.
I'm on my laptop. I'm here.
Well, I'm glad you made it back. We're kind of on the wrap up, but
sorry.
You can answer, Melissa, your impression. She said, should I read the books before I watch the show? You being the longest standing fan and having read basically everything, what's your take on that?
It really depends on your personality. Like, I do not care at all about spoilers. I love learning the backstory of all the characters. I want to know everything. So for me, it just enriched watching the show. And they are really careful. Every decision they make that differs from the books is a conscious decision to improve the quality in the medium they're working with.
Right.
And they work very closely with the authors. So it's not going to be a situation where you read the books and you're like, oh, the books are so much better.
Why is Jamie going to Dorne?
No, it's
No.
So it won't ruin it for you that way. But if it will ruin it for you, knowing what might happen, then I would just watch the show first. I mean, it's not, it's only 3 seasons in. It's not too much. And then read it. And when you're dying to know what happens next, you can read the books and find out what happens next,
Yeah, and again, I'm always going to be like, I'm going to recommend the show. That's how I came to it. But I'm always going to be like, I understand the book's always better, quote unquote, and I get it, but like,
there's more depth.
I'm a huge fan of the audiovisual medium, and they're killing it.
Yes, and the visuals for this, it's like sometimes they do things that even my imagination can't create.
Right. Like, could you have imagined what the Caliban's monster, the proto-molecule hybrid looked like? Could you have visualized that?
I did.
Based on what
they did it better.
They did it better.
And I'm an artist. I have an imagination, and there have been experiences
the show did it better,
where I felt like, the things I imagined were so much richer and more vivid than what this show captured. But it was on sci-fi. It was very visual. And because, I have an arts background, like I really respond to audiovisual medium. The more amazing of a spectacle something is to look at, you could almost, I read for plots. I watch TV for pretty.
And how great is it that you get both?
It awes me.
It's excellent.
It awes me. I love it. And I can't wait to see what Amazon does with it.
Me too.
Oh, it's going to be so much better, so much more. I don't know how it can get better, but I feel like it is.
Probably.
Yeah.
I'm pumped for it. And so for those of you that don't know and are looking for more of this, there is starting to be a little bit of stuff pop up here and there. I've found people doing like video essays and stuff on YouTube. I've found a few that people have done in the last few months. There's Azora Hype's channel where he's got a great interview, and he's going to be doing
from DragonCon. We had press passes and we hit all their panels. We got a great interview with them.
Yeah,
with Ashea from History of Westeros.
And then Alt Shift X has a little bit of stuff on his channel too about the Expanse, which is
he's lovely.
He's great at he's a great person, and he's great at what he does too. So you can go watch that. And when the new season comes out, I'm probably gonna do like episode by episode recap review with like Nessie is part of the crew on that one.
I'm down, man.
Yeah,
I'm down for this one.
We'll be doing that. I've never done like show reviews. My channel is grown up.
It's a challenge because it's not week by week. They're gonna drop the whole season at once. Kyle and I have been talking about doing stuff, but it's gonna be. I mean,
I will probably
have to watch it all at once.
I will probably do like episode 1 and 2, and then a week later do episode 3 and 4. That way it's
I'm not going to be able to not watch though. I'm going to have to watch all the one.
Oh, we're gonna watch.
Watch
Don't even fool yourself.
The recap and review will be 2 episodes.
I'm a fiend for this.
Right. I mean that'll give us time to digest the episodes and get our thoughts together on it.
Right.
Cool.
But yeah, so more Expanse coverage coming from my channel eventually, and
Eventually.
I'm really looking forward to it.
Ew.
That having been said, y'all, if anybody has anything else, now is the time, because we've been going for about 2 hours, and it's about time to wrap it up and me go find something to eat.
Mm-hmm. So
No? Okay. Well,
I'm good.
Then
I'm excited.
Thank you for having me, Stephen. I always love hanging out with you guys.
always a pleasure, Courtney. Always a pleasure.
And it's so fun to get to chat live with Nessie because we spend so much time talking behind the scenes.
Behind the scenes, yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
So anytime we can get together and gab about things that we love is just great.
That's what my whole channel is here for. Speaking of, though, well, you know what? First, Nessie, once again, thank you for coming. At One Questing Beast on Twitter. Follow her. She's a great follow. Courtney, at Courtney Maza 1 on Twitter. Follow her. She's also a great follow. Go find her.
I'm
Facebook.
more of a lurker and liker.
Yeah, but go join her Facebook.
Join her Facebook group.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a great group of people.
Game of Thrones, A Realm of Ice and Fire. It is a great group, and we do fun stuff, and yeah, it's not Expanse, but it's cool.
Right. and for and as far as my channel goes, coming up in the next few weeks, we're going to be getting back to the I Know That Nerd series. I love that. And I've got great guests lined up.
You always do. I was one of your first.
You were number 2.
Yay!
You were the second guest I ever had on my show. And
I was so lovely.
You were lovely.
You are lovely.
You're both lovely.
You're lovely too.
Okay, this is getting out of hand, y'all.
All right, look.
Oh,
when I started this stream,
right.
Now I'm in the phase where I'm like, you guys are my best friends.
Yes, Nessie.
So I missed the first part. I missed the first part of the stream. Did you give your Patreon information?
I don't have a Patreon.
I don't have one
yet. Okay, it's coming.
Maybe within a week.
Good for you.
Yes.
Yeah.
We're going to call it the tip jar.
Yeah, I did not. I'm not trying to make money off of doing this, y'all, but I am making a Patreon so that I can try to get to Ice and Fire Con next year as well. And if I do, I'm going to be doing.
I would love to see you there. It is so much fun, Stephen.
I know. I need to go, and if I can get there,
it's
I'm
like
going
family
to
reunion. You would be surrounded by love there.
Oh yeah, I don't doubt it. That's why I want to go so bad. But if I can get there, I'm going to do something special. I Know That Nerd exclusive Patreon only content once I get there.
You think so? It's Ohio. It's the middle of nowhere.
I'm going to bring a camera and talk to and get some exclusive behind the scenes face-to-face interviews, So there's that. But yeah, so information forthcoming on that eventually. But next week I have Ashea from History of Westeros as my guest on I Know That.
My girl, yes.
Right?
Yes.
That's a score, Stephen.
I mean, it is, but yeah, I'm super excited. Ashea is the best. We all know this.
Absolutely.
So come by and let's all get to know that nerd. And then coming up later in October, I know I have Gray Area, Kyle from Azora Hype, and Val from Because Geek will all be guests on I Know That Nerd eventually in October. So looking forward to that. But until then, everyone, I think that's all I've got. So come back next week for an I Know That Nerd with Ashea. And until then,
I'll be there.
peace and be excellent to each other.
Bye.
Bye, y'all.
Bye, guys. Love you.